What's up, y'all? Welcome back to our space. So before we get further into the topic of this video, I want to open it up like this. There is a distinct difference between having and hosting an open debate where you can actually exchange philosophies and actually get to the crux of whatever your two differences are, right? Then there's whatever the hell the Fresh and Fit podcast and podcasts that kind of fit in this realm reside on.
I'm fine. My real estate will take care of me because I knew that if I want to sell and not sell my soul, I need to go ahead and build residual income coming in so I can sit here and tell you, I'm not going anywhere.
And that is the intentionally rage-baity, no contextual, low surface, low hanging fruit type of content.
Yo, Rich, you look like
let me say Banabati man. Straight.
Female can prioritize, set status and hard work and everything else. We're on YouTube, right?
Because make no mistake, anyone who knows anything about this Fresh and Fit podcast and any podcast that kind of align themselves in this whole manosphere space, they all have their fair share of bringing in these edgy ass guests who they bring on to spew the most radicalized, most unhinged talking points.
Yeah, I'll do a Roman while you do it.
All right.
Bro, you can't be saying that type of stupid.
Yeah, that's so stupid.
Yeah, now you violating. You can't be violating like that.
You just said the N-word.
And they try to spew these things like they're factual without much of a rebuttal or anyone there to speak thoroughly against them. And let's be honest, y'all, the play here is simple. They cook up this toxic space where slurs are casually thrown around while honing themselves and LARPing as the frontiers of telling it like it is or being the true tellers.
Elon Musk facilitated freedom of speech on Twitter, which used to be super woke, super leftist. You say anything that's conservative or pro-right-wing, you would get censored. Matter of fact, when he took over, he acknowledged that Twitter was censoring right-wing commentators way more than left-wing ones. Then on the YouTube side, we all know that YouTube is unfavorable to conservative creators over left-wing creators. They're censored far more. Every single big right-wing creator, guys, is censored to some degree on YouTube. Whether it's Bongino being banned, us getting demonetized, everyone has dealt with some form of censorship on the right, almost everybody.
While also at the same time, ignoring any substance or any ounce of truth that goes against their agenda. Now, before things get deeper, if you are completely tired of these platforms using manufacturers' shock value and you want to stay tapped into Black leftist culture and views, please make sure to support your boy, hit that subscribe button and hit that like button. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Let's go. Peace. Another real prevalent example of bad faith debaters and commentators is the Whatever podcast. Podcasts like the Fresh and Fit podcast and the Whatever podcast, I feel like don't need much for introduction, especially if you're already in this space. I feel like you might have seen a clip of theirs once upon a time on your timeline. So anyway, while I was collecting research for this video, I was watching a Whatever podcast episode, in particular episode 294, where there's a woman who brings up well-documented history on chattel slavery in America and the gruesome reality behind it. And a lot of people don't really know all the details that go behind it because it's really disgusting shit.
Which oppression was worse, the oppression of women or African Americans or blacks?
They used to eat us.
Not really.
Wait, what? Eat?
African Americans were eaten. Do they not teach this? They were eaten, turned
You think
into
there was
furniture?
widespread cannibalism in the United States in
This was with a specific lady in New Orleans, and she tortured. I know who you're talking about. Her name is Marie DeClaire.
And I feel like, unfortunately, there's a large group of people, too, who, instead of accepting that what happened truly did happen, they try to negate or whitewash these historical facts and try to, brainwash us into believing that these actions were not as horrific and or as traumatizing or did not happen as frequently as they truly did.
One example of cannibalism.
Our skin was turned into furniture.
Wait, hold on. One example of cannibalism is not evidence of widespread.
They used to skin us and make leather out of it. Why is that even a question?
That's not even you can just.
I think he's saying because you're only pointing to one example of like.
Do you genuinely think there's widespread?
It's not one example.
So this woman brings up the well-documented history of human bodies being used for clothing such as leather goods, being subjected to extreme measures of torture, or during this time how Black Americans and Black slaves were being subjected to acts of horrific cannibalism, to the point where they even made cookbooks and recipes for this. You can't make this stuff up. I'm not saying this is the case for all white people or anyone who tries to disagree with what is clearly historically accurate. Some part of these people want to think America is so great that there is no ugly side to America, right? And in their own willful ignorance, they're willing to discredit anything that goes against their idea of what America is, right? And then there's also people like this, like people like we see on the panel here on this podcast and other podcasts just like this, who instead of trying to educate themselves, they know that education isn't what is going to appease their audience. They know the moment they do any research, they're gonna find that does not sit right with their soul, right? And we live in a day and age where we have all the information we need literally at our fingertips. So for you to sit there and say to someone who's trying to educate you on a subject that you yourself are not willfully educated on, instead of taking the time to just pull out your phone and just do a little research, you much rather just tell this person that they're incorrect. Think about it. Instead of taking the 3 seconds you can to do more research and just see what this lady is trying to tell you is truly accurate, this man instead tells her, the host, Brian Keller, tells her that she needs to be the one to fact check this. And it's so funny to me because these are the same people, like I said, who try to push themselves as pillars of telling the truth, but refuse to read up or look into anything that goes against their talking points.
You see slavery in like almost all cultures throughout history. And it's actually white people who abolished slavery. Like the British spent tons of money basically going on the warpath to abolish slavery across the world.
I do agree that slavery existed outside of America. However, you did bring up the Aztecs in which they would do child sacrifices. However, they made it more common to eat and build us into furniture.
My gut instinct here is to reject that this was like a really frequent or common practice where African Americans were made into lampshades or some shit.
Does anyone who subscribes to the mindset of these fools not see the correlation here? Or do you see the correlation and you're willfully still choosing to be ignorant? So like I said, instead of him, Brian, going out of his way to try to do a little research on this topic that this lady brought forth to him, he immediately moves on to a super chat from a viewer who loves eating this stupid. This podcast commentator goes out of his way to call this lady out of her name just because he thinks all she's trying to spew is victimhood talking points, instead of trying to understand where she's coming from.
I also do believe that like the education system in America does hide a lot of things like about slavery, and you don't really get to see like the truth of it until you get into higher education. So whatever like, you know, thing that you think of like, oh yeah, slavery is not like as bad.
Desert judge donated $200. Bricks and please kick chair 6 off the panel. She's a fucking retard crying victimhood all night long. The Discord crew is almost positive she has a...
Hey, look, you know, she's being respectful. She's being good faith.
The only people who truly subscribe to anyone who spews talking points like this, or the same man who aren't getting any play from any woman they themselves can't align to, whether that being black or another group of people that they themselves aren't, they're quick to align themselves with anything that makes them feel better than the mediocre person that they truly are. So let's do the easy ass work that these lanes refuse to do. Was the history of human skin and cannibalism a myth? I'm gonna need y'all to say it with me on 3. 1, 2, 3. Hell nah. No, that was not a myth. It never was a myth. It never has been a myth. And no matter whatever talking points you want to spew, it will never be a myth. Stop trying to whitewash horrific facts that truly did happen to slaves in America. Why is this such a hard thing for people to agree on? It's a stomach-turning, hard-hitting reality that we in all America need to come to terms with, that this was truly going on at a time. After the execution of Nat Turner in 1831 in Virginia, historical records show that this man was butchered, his skin was tanned, and pieces from that were transferred into keepsakes, purses, and other collective items for the local white citizens in these communities.
When Nat Turner was caught with his Bible in his hand, he ultimately was lynched, and then he was skinned, and then he was dismembered. And so I think of him as a freedom fighter, even if that meant I'll be free in death.
More stories like this came out from a March 1888 edition of the Mercury newspaper from Philadelphia. These reports came with details of medical professionals wearing shoes that came from tan skin that derived from the skin of deceased Black Americans. The historical archives compiled by the Jim Crow Museum openly document multiple cases in the 19th century where medical students would used the skin of black bodies to cover instrument cases, slippers, and cigar boxes.
During slavery, human skin, yes, actual skin from African bodies, was used to make shoes, bags, and even medical tools. Dr. David Pilgrim, founder of a museum dedicated to the history of racism, uncovered chilling truths that most history books refuse to mention. In 1888, a doctor in Philadelphia proudly walked the streets boasting about his shoes, crafted from the skin of a black man. He claimed this leather was softer, stronger, and more durable than any other material, and he didn't hide it. He actually said there was nothing wrong with using black skin for his benefit. Where did he get it? From medical schools. After dissections, the skin was collected and repurposed. But history isn't just facts, it's pain, power, and truth. And it's time we faced it.
When it comes to cannibalism, Dr. Vincent Woodward published an entire textbook on this exact structural trauma titled The Delectable Negro. His research maps out runaway slave advertisements, ship logs like the 1837 case of the slave ship Arrogante, and court records proving that white enslavers and trade captains utilize acts of human consumption as extreme psychological terror and physical punishment. Yet, running through all this very quickly, mind you, in this podcast clip from the Whatever podcast, another woman brings up the act of cannibalism that was brought on against Black Americans and Black slaves during this time. And yet again, instead of the host just taking a little bit of time to do a little bit of research on this, he simply rolls his eyes and outright just says that my gut instinct basically is telling me that this didn't happen as much as we are playing it up to be, or wasn't that frequent or that common of a practice to make it that big of a deal.
You agree that slavery existed outside of America. However, you did bring up the Aztecs in which they would do child sacrifices. However, they made it more common to eat and build us into furniture.
My gut instinct here is to reject that this was like a really frequent or common practice where African Americans were made into lampshades or some shit.
It's just so, oh my God, it's just so annoying and so frustrating. Because think about how fucking arrogant you have to be to make a statement like that. And it's just so damn annoying because these are the same people who try to paint a picture of themselves as being frontiers of truth and knowledge and not going off of feelings. But yet anytime there is any factual evidence that can get brought onto them that either might not appease their audience that they're clearly trying to cater to or would go against their truly distorted beliefs, they are so quick to rely on what their gut instincts are and what their feelings are. All of a sudden, feelings become valid. All of a sudden, when the truth isn't aligning to what you think it should be, right? I find the hypocrisy in fools like this. I mean, it's definitely frustrating, but in a sense, it's almost kind of comedic too. And let's get another detail across while we're on the topic of these types of podcasts. With these formats are built on starving young men and radicalizing them while draining them financially, while also putting in their head racial friction points and building up misogynistic principles so these young men can become even further radicalized and become radicalized adults in the future.
Do you think feminism is good? Do you think it's helped women out?
Yes.
Left them in a better place?
Yes.
You think so?
100%.
Okay. So, how many of you guys think feminism is good? Raise your hands if you think feminism is good.
Just to joke about it online, it's so entertaining to me, but not society-wise.
Does feminism not mean women are equal to men? We
Well,
deserve equal rights?
Yeah. That's what started as.
What is it now?
We can get into that, but you think it's good in general?
Yes.
Okay. Why?
Because I think women and men are equal. I think we all deserve the equal.
But didn't you just say a second ago you believe in gender roles?
It's equality. I believe in equity.
So when Robert comes, you got it this time, right?
That's not what I said.
That's what you said.
Is feminism not like we all deserve the same?
Well, you know, men and women can be the same and different, you know. The guy can handle the robber and the female can cook, but, you know, 2 + 8 = 10 and 5 + 5 = 10 too. They're both different values and different things, but they equal the same thing.
Yeah.
So coming together as one, as a puzzle piece, both sides are equal.
Is that
but
not equity?
They say equity is like female can do exactly what the man does, but no, 5 + 5.
That's not what I said it was.
Well, right, but I'm saying gender roles, though they're different, it still is an equal partnership. You know, that's my point. Like,
these podcasts are not here to open a discussion on anything. They invite these young Black women onto this panel. They isolate them in a room piping hot with hostility, and they unfortunately use these ladies' lack of historical training against them and to their benefit. to the podcast's benefit. Serve up these storylines in these podcasts to make these ladies look like they're having unhinged emotional venting sessions. Like on this other whatever clip that came across my timeline.
Lucy Goosey, can you read this?
Check out the Barbary slave trade. Transatlantic slave trade is always talked about, not Africans enslaving Africans. Plus 8% of the world is white, the global minority. Google it. Black, brown, and yellow are the majority, always the victim, never their fault.
Yo, John, thank you for the super chat. I do appreciate it. That is a good point. Whites were definitely victims of slavery.
And this show routinely amplifies super chats from viewers who weaponize low-effort talking points to frame white citizens as the ultimate global minority and the primary victims of history. In these types of spaces, there is no room for black positivity for any black person, let alone a black woman. But if we're truly unpacking this topic for what it is, we also have to objectively look at this from both sides, whether that be good or bad. And I'm not here picking on these ladies because I truly do think it's outstanding that although they were clearly getting choked out in the conversation in the sense that like these people who were hosting the debate clearly didn't want them to get any word in. They still stood 10 toes down on their points. And I'll give them the applause. Some of them even walked out of the show. And I mean this in no malicious way and nothing but a lovingly way. But when we walk into these spaces as black people, we really need to be educated on what it is that we're speaking on. Because when you walk into these spaces and present people with severe historical facts without many or if any clear references, you are literally handing these grifters the perfect ammo to mock us. If you're going to speak on the absolute worst atrocities committed against your own ancestors, you cannot show up to an adversarial studio with a paragraph about your feelings in a class you took one time. You gotta show up armed with them receipts. Otherwise, you're volunteering yourself into being made into a fool, where they can use your visible frustration to juice their metrics. If someone can sit in front of a computer, run a massive commentary platform, and yet still choose to rely on their gut instinct rather than doing a basic Google search, they aren't an unbiased commentator nor nonetheless a fucking truth seeker. They are in the marketplace to sell to ignorant people and grifters. But don't just take my words for it, and definitely don't take theirs. Please do your research on any and every bit of information you take online, including this video. Please go read the documents and the information that I spoke on for yourself, and you let me know what you think of in the comments. All right, y'all, so the comment section is open. Tell me your thoughts. Are these hosts genuinely uneducated, or is the financial incentive to openly mock Black history too high for them to ever crack open a book and do a little bit of research? I don't know. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are below, and I hope to see you in the next video. Peace!